We get coaches on to answer your questions. Okay, if all the guests want to mute with a second, it might be that someone has got two tabs open. So if you've got LinkedIn open and it's gone live on there, the fact that it was about 10 seconds delay, I'm thinking that might be the issue. Let's see if we can resolve that. Okay. Three coaches, two of which are new to Ask the Coach. We've had over 70 coaches on this now, on our 44th session. It gets downloaded, recorded, and put into our course. Click on the green button there where it says join the gym. This is all free access for recruiters to gather information as much as possible. Morning, Stephen. Yeah, do come and say hello. We're a friendly bunch. Say hello. And if you've got a question, feel free to add it. And if we have time, we'll put it in today. If not, we'll add it to the next session. Now, the questions are in there. You get to vote on them. I'm going to get the coaches to introduce themselves in a moment. Did I say I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the recruiting gym? Not sure. We had a bit of reverb that threw me off. So if you want to vote on your question as the coaches are introducing themselves, and then if you want, then you don't have to necessarily stay here for the 45 minutes if there's only one question that you're interested in. But to be honest, most people stay for the whole thing. Welcome. It's lunchtime. Grab a drink, grab something to eat. Come and join us. Right. Katie, I'm coming to you first. If you'd like to unmute while people are voting, you get to introduce yourself.
Oh, thanks, Angela. Sorry for that feedback. I think it was my fault. I had two tabs open. So shoot me now. So yeah, just to introduce myself, you can probably tell from the low pitch in my voice that either I've been a heavy smoker for the last 30 years, or in fact I am transgender. Well, frankly, I couldn't cope with the stigma of being labelled as a smoker, so I went for the easier option instead. But having said that, being trans isn't easy, and it's definitely not optional. No one chooses to be trans. So yeah, I've been a photographer and filmmaker for the last 35 years. But then 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago, I came out very publicly as being transgender after living for 48 years as a man. And so I now have a business called Cool to be Trans, where I do trans awareness training and inspirational speaking all over the world. So that's me, otherwise known as just the Gobby Trans Woman.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. If you want to put your details, we've got your LinkedIn details in there, but I know you've got a link tree with all the details of what you do. So if you're interested in finding out more about Katie, and certainly her journey is a fantastic one as well, feel free to click on that and find out more. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Tony, if you would like to introduce yourself, new to this as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I'm Tony Restell. I'm the founder of socialhire.com. We are a social media agency that specializes in professional services. So we work with a lot of recruitment agencies and then similar businesses like consulting firms, business coaching companies, training companies. And yeah, prior to that, I built and sold a job board business. So I've sort of worked with the recruitment industry for the last 22 years. Yeah, how did that happen?
Well, it's always the way, isn't it? It just flies past. And I know you've been around for a long time, but we've never really got to work together. So I'm really pleased to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. My pleasure. And Lauren, who I have been working with for the last couple of years, done lots for us in the gym. Menopause in Your Business is Lauren's course. Again, a free course to access if you want to learn more. So Lauren, tell us about you.
Yeah, no, brilliant to be back. And we're coming up to World Menopause Day on the 18th of October. So if you are thinking about doing anything in regards to raising awareness, normalizing the conversation and helping everyone navigate this successfully, this is a brilliant time to start thinking about doing that. I left my job as in my early 40s. I was senior executive in financial services. I thought I had early onset dementia. And then I discovered I'd just gone through menopause. So that's left me in a mission for the last 8 years to get out globally, to help normalise the conversation and to just share why we haven't been talking about menopause and why we haven't been talking about it in the workplace. So I partner with a lot of recruiters to educate their clients, to educate people that they're working with, so that we can set people up for success, whether they're managing somebody going through menopause, being managed by someone going through menopause, or actually having that direct experience themselves. So Women of a Certain Stage was never intended to be a business, but here we are 8 years later and I love it. So great to see everyone today.
I love the name, Women of a Certain Stage. It's just so perfect. And the fact that you thought you had early onset dementia, it was that extreme, and you left your job so that you didn't have to deal with that. Just shows you the impact that menopause has on women, and we just don't appreciate that. And that's why we're here, and that's why you share so much with us as well. So thank you for that. We'd love to get you on, whether it's that week or the week before. I know you get really busy World Menopause Week, so or day around that week. So we'll talk about that afterwards. Right, let's have a look. We're cracking on with the questions then. Question 2 is coming up first. What are the recruitment agencies that are being most effective on social media focusing on? So I'm not coming to you ladies then. I'll let Tony answer this one. Away you go.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I thought 3 things worth really highlighting to everyone today. The first thing is that recruitment agencies that are getting the most exposure are focusing on promotion through their people. So all of the platforms, to varying degrees and in some cases very extremely, give visibility to individual people on the platform at the expense of companies. If you think of it simply, you know, the likes of Facebook and LinkedIn want companies to pay for exposure. So when a company puts out a post, it gets far, far less visibility than an individual. So the first thing I would say is the recruitment agencies that have got their whole team sharing resources that raise the visibility of the brand, in particular if you've got branded assets like, you know, videos, reports, PDFs, whatever, you can just get far, far more visibility for your company if you focus on that. The second thing we're really seeing is put out far fewer promotional posts and focus on storytelling instead. So for example, a recruitment business will very often push out their latest job advert, and it'll be, you know, written like a job advert, and that gets, you know, minimal engagement and therefore visibility. Whereas if you have a recruiter that actually tells a story about, you know, this is how I came into contact with this company, this is how amazing they are, these are some of the experiences I've had when I've talked to them, you know, people resonate a lot more with that kind of story. And then the third thing I would highlight is recruitment agencies, particularly if they're using social media to win business, have really focused on how do we grow our audience with our ideal prospects, and experimenting with, okay, once we've got that audience, how do we get people, you know, booked in for a call with us, or signing up to come to a networking event we're running, or attend a business breakfast, or something that gets, you know, the recruitment agency FaceTime or call time with their ideal clients. Do those 3 things and you'll be, you know, one of the most prominent and successful recruitment businesses on social.
I'm so glad you said about the individuals getting involved from the company's point of view and for them sharing. We had our Meet Your Recruiter week last week, and we had one company, the session before, we do it every quarter. So the spring session, we have one company get their whole people to do it. But I think we had 5 or 6 companies on this one, where actually they were supporting them. It was all the individuals within the business. They were all sharing information in that way. And yeah, it made a huge difference. But that engagement part as well, of actually feeling part of that brand and representing it, good old pride in the badge, Humphrey Waters stuff, isn't it? That can make a big difference. So everyone's winning from that scenario. I love that. Fantastic. Katie, you got something you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, Tony was saying about storytelling, and storytelling is just so important, I think, with whatever you're doing, you know, and I use it all the time with my work, because rather than just going in just sort of, you know, with trans awareness training and just sort of saying, well, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say, by actually going in and telling my story. And I know, Lauren, you're the same, aren't you, with what you do? I just think it's so powerful. People like being told stories, and especially by the people who are living it. So I can quite see why it works in terms of advertising for job adverts as well. So brilliant.
Yeah, it's that human connection, isn't it? And that's the one thing I'm really grateful for the pandemic for. This last 2 years, we've really moved forward with regards to opening up, sharing more about ourselves, being human. It's one of the values of the gym, being human. So if we can be that and appreciate, none of us are perfect. We've all got issues. And therefore, if we can all support each other in whatever it is we're doing, then the world's just going to be a better place, isn't it? Oh, okay, definitely. Lovely. We went from social media to better world. Love it. Go from there. Right, let me have a look at the questions. Who are we coming to next? Okay. So Lauren, we're coming to you. How can our company be at the forefront of supporting women experiencing menopause? Because am I right? It's going to be law? Tell us all about it.
We don't know yet. So in the UK, there's a parliamentary inquiry looking at menopause in the workplace. And I think before we even think about anything to do with that, it's important to think about why we're talking about menopause and why we're talking about it now. So if we go back 100 years ago, we know that women were dying in their mid-40s. And interestingly, menopause is a relatively modern phenomenon from that point of view. Also, women weren't in the workplace until the last couple of decades at this sort of seniority and en masse in the way that we are now. So we have to take the landscape of the work environment and make it fit for purpose for women having periods, fit for purpose for transgender colleagues, for non-binary, for gender questioning colleagues. We have to think about the biological needs. We have to think about how we set the work environment up, whether you're frontline and you're out on the road or you're in an office environment. There are some basic human needs that we have to meet to stop women falling out of the workplace in the mid-30s because of children, or falling out of the workplace in the mid-40s, 50s because of menopause. The statistics are now backing up, showing that we are losing huge amounts of skills, knowledge, and experience. So the first thing we have to do is talk about it. And, by having awareness sessions, training your managers, making sure that your recruitment, your entire recruitment process, so everything from job design right the way through to exit, the whole employee journey really, but especially the recruitment process, the language that's being used is entirely inclusive and it doesn't turn people off. So letting people know what sort of policy you've got in place, what sort of guidance, what sort of support mechanisms you put in place. Because at the end of the day, we all know how tough it is to get the right talent at the moment. And if we can just go that extra mile, I have employers come to me to ask which companies I'm working with, who is genuinely, menopause savvy. And, that connection has been made outside of the kind of mainstream recruitment area, because there are people who desperately want to go back to work, but they are being really, really picky about where they're going to go and work. Because women are, and I say women because when I say women, I'm talking about research pieces that have come out and it's being done on women as opposed to the broader spectrum of people that are impacted by periods and menopause. But women are much more likely to leave their job by voting with their feet because they're not happy with the circumstances that they're in or the environment. And we need to start to think critically about how we can make 1% incremental changes to make them more menopause and period friendly.
So are they, when you say they're more happy to leave and vote with their feet, for me, I'm thinking, is it that? Or is it we're less happy to actually confront it and try and deal with the issues to make it better?
It's a combination. There's a whole raft of things, but we know that over 12% of women will actually leave work because they're not getting supported through menopause. And that's a drop in the ocean for the reasons that people leave. Now, when you get to your, perimenopause, the phase leading up to menopause starts and could start in your late 30s, early 40s, and that would be entirely normal. So if you think that someone's gone through all the stuff that they've gone through and achieved all the things they've achieved in their life up to that point, it's almost like the straw that breaks camel's back. It's kind of like, enough already, I'm done. There's got to be an easier way. There's got to be another way of doing this. And to a greater or lesser extent, women are still not always a main breadwinner. So they may be in a slightly, they may not have to be the one that's going out and earning that level of income. So there's a whole bunch of reasons behind it. But we do know that we are losing women in the workplace. Hand over fist, there's quotes of over 900,000 or 1 million women that have left the workplace in recent years as a result of not getting the right support through menopause.
Oh, I just got a chill down my back. But I mean, nearly 1 million women. No wonder we've got a skills crisis at the moment. From there. And actually, I just want to check this while I've got you, because I think it was you that said it, that the average age of menopause is 51, which it was for me a couple of years ago. But isn't the average age of suicide for women also 51?
Yeah, so the more recent, since we spoke, there's more recent stats that have come out that's shown that, so it used to be women were most likely to take or attempt to take their own life at 51. Now we know that between the ages of 45 to 49, which is, leading up to menopause, that is quite a big spell where there's a spike in women attempting to take their own life and taking their own life.
Yeah, I mean, there's no surprise for me. The level of anxiety and all the issues that it brings with it, you suddenly feel like you're not you. that you are a different person. So imposter syndrome that then kicks in as well around, can I do my job? And like you say, you left not realizing that that was the issue. So we as recruiters can do a lot about it, can't we? That's the key. We're there. We're the people that are having these conversations. So let's open up that dialogue. Let's have more conversations. All the sessions that you've done for us are in that course. Thank you. I think I saw Blake put the link in there for it. Menopause and your business. So yes, it's about menopause, but it's about how it relates to your business, and specifically for recruiters as well. So if you don't know much about this topic, you really should. And it will definitely help you in your business, with your candidates, with your clients, with your colleagues, with your home life. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now, but thank you from those. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is question 3. Well, these came out in order nicely, that you got to do that. So why do trans people struggle to get work? Okay, Katie. So what's the issue with this from a recruitment point of view?
Well, there was a survey recently that showed that transphobia is rife among UK employers, as 1 in 3 UK employers admitted that they wouldn't employ a trans person. Now, that is shocking, but to be honest, I'm shocked that the ratio isn't higher, because the vast majority of my trans friends have struggled to get work. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I think that it should be higher. But I don't think it's so much that they're transphobic, but I think it's more that they haven't had enough trans awareness education, and so they're a bit frightened of the whole subject, and they think, oh, we'll just keep well away, and we won't touch it, and we'll move on to somebody else. But it's a shame, because all that talent is going to waste. And the thing is that for employers that do discriminate against trans people, they could land themselves in really hot water, because obviously gender reassignment is one of the protected characteristics of the Equality Act 2010, and there's been some really high profile cases. I mean, Jaguar Land Rover was one of the last high profile ones to get to fall foul of that a couple of years ago. But let's look at the positive reasons for hiring trans people, because given the chance to succeed, most trans people would give 100% to their employers, because if once you find a supportive employer, why on earth as a trans person would you leave and then try to find a new job and put yourself through all that anxiety of not knowing what the culture is like in the new place of work, whether you're going to get bullied out of that job or not. So you'd stay, and you'd probably be one of the most loyal employees that employer's ever had. So there's a real plus there. And there's another survey recently showed that LGBTQIA plus employees are 32% more productive when they're comfortable being out at work. So what's not to like about that? That's a real win-win. It's a win for the employee, and it's a win for the employer, because the staff retention rates go up, your productivity rates go up. It's such a positive thing. It's brilliant.
Well, I'm thinking the amount of energy it must take someone when they're not out to actually be in that situation and be worried about that all the time at work. That's taking up so much time and effort.
It is. It is awful. And this is the thing, is that many employers will have many trans employees within their workforce, but often they don't know about it because the employees are too frightened to come out, because they haven't put the trans inclusion practices in place, and the training in place, and so the workforce hasn't been trained, so there's not a culture of trans inclusion there, and so those trans employees don't know that whether their colleagues would accept them or not, and so they're really frightened. It's a massive thing to come out at work. It's a huge thing. It really is.
I love the fact that you led with 32% increased productivity, because that's what a lot of people are saying. Well, why are we talking about this subject now? Why is it such a big deal and all the rest of it? But we've got people that are not achieving their full potential.
Yeah.
And just a simple, easy change means, like you say, everyone wins out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to make the business case for it, because we all know it's just the right thing to do. But for some employers, you do have to make the business case to them, unfortunately.
Well, if a third of them admitted, and that's the key, isn't it? They admitted, so that means there's loads more that didn't admit it. So they're missing out straight away. And my viewers as well, what an experience that person has been through, and also seeing sort of both sides of life. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I'm just thinking what a great opportunity to have someone with so much awareness at that point once you've been through.
Yeah, and to go through this sort of journey, you have to be very resilient, because because it's a really tough journey. I mean, nobody chooses to be trans. I didn't want to be trans. I didn't choose to. It's just who I am. It's how I was born, and it's just that it took me 48 years to admit it to myself and fighting amongst myself. But now I've admitted it to myself. I'm living my best life, and I'm authentic. I'm really happy, and what an amazing thing to have such happy people who really know who they are working for you. Absolutely amazing, and resilient as well. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, that links back to Lauren's point. Like I say, it's enforced on you, the same as menopause is enforced on us. We wouldn't choose it, would we, Lauren, if we got the choice? So it's the same type of, it's not same type of scenario, what am I saying? But it's still that enforced journey that we have to deal with, so we can make it easier. Either side of the fence there, we can make it easier to people. You're right, happy people are more productive. And therefore let's make sure that we get to that point. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Some key facts in there as well. If you could put those facts into the chat, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
we can share that and put it in the course as well. Brilliant. Okay, let's go to question 4 then. What recent changes should recruitment agencies be adapting their digital marketing to address? Okay, so yes, what's been going on? I get this question a lot around what's new, what's happening, but are there any recent changes, that I should be aware of? Because recruiters just don't get a chance to be catching up with everything. So Tony, we're coming to you.
I mean, you're absolutely right. We, about 18 months ago, started producing a quarterly report of here's everything that a recruitment business owner needs to know that's changed in the last few weeks that you ought to be adapting to. And there's enough material, enough things change, significantly for us to put that out every quarter. But I picked 2 things to talk about today specifically, because they've just happened and potentially big impacts for recruitment agencies. The first is for any recruitment agency that has spent money advertising any jobs on LinkedIn. You tend to find with LinkedIn that recruitment agencies either have a tiny number of followers on their page, or they have actually quite a significant number of followers on their page. And the difference is, have you spent money on job ads or not? Because you end up with loads of followers as a spin-off benefit of paying for advertising. Up until now, it's been really frustrating for recruitment business owners, because you've got all these followers, but you seem to get hardly any visibility or results from that. And what has changed in the last few weeks is that LinkedIn have opened up their LinkedIn newsletters to company pages. Now, if I tell you that a typical newsletter, when it's launched, gets about 15% of followers become subscribers overnight. So if you've got a recruitment agency that's got, let's say, 30,000 followers, they're going to have something like 4,500 email newsletter subscribers like that overnight. And it's also incredibly powerful because those emails get delivered to people's inboxes. So for anyone who's ever run an email newsletter before, you'll know that one of the big challenges is, how do I make sure my email newsletter goes into inboxes rather than the Gmail promotion tab or Outlook's, whatever it is, spam folder or whatever. And a lot of newsletters end up in those folders and so don't get seen by loads of people who subscribe to them. Whereas because LinkedIn emails are trusted by Gmail, by Outlook, they go always straight to the inbox. So there's things you have to get right to make a success of this. You only get one shot at launching a LinkedIn newsletter, so you've got to do the right things and not mess it up. But if you haven't looked at that as a business in the last few weeks, I would definitely
reiterate that. Let me just share our story, talk about storytelling. So we found the newsletter thing about 2 months ago, and we do a newsletter every week and a different topic every week. And one of the topics is industry news. So recruitment industry news, what's going on. So we chose that one. We thought that would be most helpful to our followers. And we've got about 3,500, maybe 3,600, something like that. And literally within the month, we've got nearly 1,000 newsletter followers. So a third nearly are actually following that. And yeah, fantastic. Like you say, that that it's getting to them and it's going to be stuff that's helpful for them. So I'm so glad, because we didn't know at the time, we only had one shot at it. So I'm so glad we picked that one, because we could have gone wrong with that.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a perfect example of it working in practice. The other thing that I think may have passed a lot of recruitment business owners by is that Google Analytics is going. So for
what? Sorry,
most
Analytics. Where's it going?
It is ceasing to operate, and it is being replaced. It's being replaced by what's called GA4, which is a new version of Google Analytics. But you have to make a change to get from one to the other. So if at the moment your recruitment business, you keep tabs on what's happening on your website through Google Analytics, as of July next year, it will stop working. But what that means is if you like to do annual comparisons, how many candidates have we had on our site this July versus how many candidates do we have on our site last July? Well, if you haven't switched on the new version of Google Analytics now, then you're basically losing the ability to do that. And because it's free, it's what a lot of recruitment businesses have on their website. So you could be, inadvertently sleepwalking into just losing the ability to track that anymore.
So how do we switch on GA4?
So if you go to your Google Analytics at the moment, where you would go to see all the traffic and so on your site, there'll be an alert on that page that this version of Google Analytics is disappearing, and then steps to follow to get the new version onto your site. But
and I'm now realizing, because I did look a week or so ago, and I'm thinking, I think I might have seen that. Normally I would have been all over it, but if it said it's disappearing in July 2023, oh, that's all right then. I wouldn't have taken it in, not realizing that, you're going to miss the year-on-year stuff. And I love a trend. So that's going to be brought up. Brilliant. Okay. Love these things. Yeah, we've got to get you on once a quarter so you can update us. Can you put the link for your newsletter? Is it open to everyone? Well, you've muted yourself.
We share it as a PDF on LinkedIn, so I will put a link to that section.
Lovely. And then people can click and follow your newsletter, and therefore that all links back. Brilliant. Okay, thank you for that. Really helpful. Right, what's the next one that's coming up? Yes. So how can I make my workplace be more trans inclusive? So although Lauren has referenced a couple of things, let's go to Katie and find out how we can actually make our workplaces better so that we get that 32% increased productivity.
So I was just frantically trying to unmute myself there, and other things were popping up.
Talking. It's all right. We know.
I know. Thank you. I didn't have to admit it, did I? Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that could do. I mean, I can bang on all day about this sort of thing. And my cat's just piped up.
Yes, yeah. So this is Zebedee, but everyone. So literally might bounce in a moment.
He might jump up behind me. Yes, there's so many things. I think the first thing that people can do, which is it's a free thing that anybody can do, is to start using their pronouns. So if you see it, like where I've got my name of my picture here, I've got she and her in brackets afterwards. So if everyone starts using those on their social media and on their email signatures and everywhere they use it, then that just normalizes the use of pronouns. Because the thing is that many people have got names that are gender non-specific anyway, such as Leslie, Dr. Smith. There's loads of examples. I
had Lou yesterday. Luckily, Monster are going to be sponsoring one of these, our European special, in a couple of weeks' time. And he talked about Lou, and I assumed it was a guy. And obviously it wasn't. But I did have one of my clients ask me, he said, in all honesty, I am ignorant. Why have you got she, her? What actually does that mean? Or why do you need it? And what was explained to me was, it's not about me necessarily. It's not necessarily a big thing for me. I don't promote that. It's about whoever you're talking to or whoever's having a conversation with you, for them to feel comfortable to be who they are. And that, because I didn't put it on my details to start with, because I thought it doesn't really relate to me. It's not about me, it's about everyone else, isn't it?
Exactly. And by you using it, that helps to normalize it for everybody else, and it shows that it's not just for weird people like me. It's for everyone. Yeah,
We're all weird.
I think normal is overrated. It really is.
I'll take weird, definitely.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, we don't want to be normal. Nah.
So that's the first thing you can do, and that's free. It doesn't cost a penny. I mean, mandatory trans awareness training is essential for every member of staff. I mean, there's no excuse because so often I get brought in during Trans Awareness Week, Transgender Day of Visibility, Pride Month, all the other different things. And companies do this, sort of this sort of pink washing thing, sort of saying, "Oh, look, aren't we brilliant? Look, we brought this person in to do this thing." But then it's a voluntary audience that come along, but usually what you find then is that for voluntary audiences, it's only the people who are on side who turn up.
Yeah.
The people who really need that education don't turn up, and they don't get to hear it. And so I find myself preaching to the converted, and it does serve a purpose because it helps to further their education. But it really needs to reach those other people. So everybody needs to do it. If people are serious, if companies are serious about changing the culture and to make it trans inclusive, then everyone has to be trained. No excuses. And you've got to have buy-in at board level. It's hopeless trying to do it from the bottom upwards. It just tends to fizzle out. If the CEO says being trans inclusive is an essential way we do business, then it will trickle down to everybody. It'll filter down to everybody, and everybody will get it. I think it's important to have a flexible transition at work policy in place, and don't wait until a trans person comes out at work and says, "By the way, I'm trans," and then the HR director goes, "Run away, run away." Don't wait till then. That's the worst time to do it. The time to do it is now, before you've got anybody, and get it in place and make sure it's flexible and that it's based around the trans person, because each trans person is going to want to come out in a different way. I mean, mine was a very extreme way that I came out, but there's lots of people coming out in a much more low-key way, and do different things, and then put various bits of education in then as well.
And is that a resource that people can get from you, Katie? Because I'm thinking I wouldn't know where to start with that. But right.
I've helped
have that as part of our handbook.
Yeah, I've helped a lot of companies put together their transition at work policies and handbooks and guides, whatever they want to call them, however they want to sort of brand it. But yeah, I've helped a lot of people with that sort of thing, so that's not a problem at all. And also just thinking about things like toilets as well. And I know everyone seems to love talking about toilets for some reason. I don't know why, but having gender neutral loos, I think, is really important, to be honest. And if you're not quite there yet with gender neutral loos, just make sure you've got sanitary bins in all your loos, because there's a lot of trans men who are going to need them. So just thinking about that sort of thing, and a lot of trans people are too frightened to use public loos because of the abuse that they get. And it's not just trans women that get abuse, and trans men. I've got a lot of butch lesbian friends, and they're cisgender, so they're not trans, but they get a lot of abuse because they've got a more masculine appearance. And so many trans people and gender non-conforming people, they don't drink when they go out because they're too frightened to use the public loos, and so they deliberately dehydrate themselves. And in 2022, we shouldn't have a situation where people are deliberately dehydrating themselves because they're too frightened to use a loo just because of what label is on the loo door. And as long as the cubicles, partitions go from floor to ceiling, and the doors do as well, and the locks work, then you're just in that cubicle by yourself. Nobody's any danger at all. And cisgender people aren't in any danger of being abused by trans people. Statistically, it's actually the other way around. And we just want a wee in safety just as much as you do. That's it. That's all it is.
That's got to be a quote, Blake. We want a wee in safety.
Yeah. I've got loads of others, but I don't want to sort of overrun the time, but I could bang on for ages.
That's fine. I mean, as a child, I never understood when I went out somewhere why there were different toilets, because obviously in your household, you don't, and they're always mixed. And it was always something that confused me as a child. Why do we go to separate ones?
Do you know why there's separate ones?
No.
Well, it started off, originally, women didn't go out to work. They were expected to stay at home, and so it was only men that went out to work, and so there were only men's loos, and so they'd have their urinals and everything. Because then, as soon as women started going out to work, well, there was nowhere for them because they were expected to only go as far as their bladders could allow them, so they could just come back at home to have a wee. And so then they started having separate ladies' loos, and that is the reason why. It's just purely because there were only public men's loos, no public ladies' loos. So that's why. I mean, that's how it came about. It's ridiculous.
I mean, again, this has got to be 100 years ago, isn't it? So it does seem weird that we didn't change that then. So let's change it now. Let's move on from there. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
With regards to the last question then, I'm going to come to Lauren, because I think, Lauren, I think you're probably done the most international speaking of all of us, although I do think we've all got a little bit to add to this. So we will come to the other coaches as well. But Lauren, if I can come to you first, the question was, I saw that the coaches are international speakers. It seems very glamorous, but what's the reality? And the reason was, this person is looking to get into this environment, and everyone always thinks, oh, it's amazing, but actually they want to check before they do.
I'm always happy to have a conversation offline. There's speakers and there's speakers. So there's the kind of occasional ad hoc invite to go and do a keynote. There is the occasional invite to do a keynote where you're paying your own expenses and you're on stage and you've taken time out of your diary and your schedule to dance to someone else's tune, and you're not getting anything back. And then there's being well paid to be a speaker and getting business class flights, having great accommodation, being picked up and dropped off from the airport, being handsomely paid for actually being there, and being able to choose whether you hang around before and after the event as well. And I've done all of the above. And I will still continue to do all of the above through choice, because there are times when I want to access a specific audience, and it might be in my interest, in order to break into that arena, that I would want to maybe go and do something where I'm choosing to put myself forward. And typically it's also when I'm supporting a charity event as well. So I personally give 10% of my time to charity, and that's something I don't put out there, I don't say anything about, but that's when I'm choosing to go and do an event and I'm paying to be there. I don't believe in charging for doing that. And very often the charity events are at a level where the audience is it's just something that I'm like, there's a massive win-win here. Equally, Australia, I've got to really think about how much time I'm away from home, from my son. It's very personal. So most of my talks will be in the States. That just tends to be where I get booked most often. And I've learned that, there has to be a win-win for me to stand on stage and feel great about being there, no matter how much I love doing my keynote. For me to really feel it's a good energy exchange, I have to have negotiated a good deal so that we're both winning, we're both getting something out of it. And whether you're at, entry-level pricing point or, quite a high price point, there is no right price to charge. And it's just about finding that exchange where you know that what you're receiving, whether it's testimonials, whether it's money, whether it's your expenses, whatever it is for you, that it's giving you the right exposure, it's getting you in front of the right people, and you are coming away from that experience feeling good. So for me, you are the master of your own destiny. And I think when we start going into the speaking world, I didn't plan to be a speaker. It was a bit through default. However, the first time I stood on stage, apart from the fact I was a jittering bag of nerves, by the time I came off stage, I was in seventh heaven and discovered that I had a real passion for sharing my message by doing that in front of a live audience. So yeah, I mean, I coach, I train, and I speak. This wasn't what I set out to do, but I absolutely love it. And I think that it's just about being the master of your own destiny, designing the type of life you want to live, and then thinking about what that translates into, and taking control of the negotiations, not feeling like you have to, bend to someone else's rules. Yeah. Definitely don't ever do that. If you don't feel good about it, don't, just walk away. There's plenty of opportunities out there, and the right things will come your way in due course.
I love that. The fact is, feel comfortable to walk away. It's the same in recruitment. When you don't feel right about working with a company, there's usually something that's triggered that, or maybe their values really don't fit with you. To be able to walk away and have the confidence to do that. Speaking wise, we have lots of opportunities in the recruitment industry. We've got the Recruitment Expo twice a year, and they actually go out and ask for speakers. So if you're not aware of that and you do feel like this might be something that you want to get involved with, Blake, if you could put the Recruitment Expo link in there. They usually ask about 6 months ahead, and it's actually Louise Triance that is organising the speakers at the moment. She's been doing this year's, so she would be a good person to reach out to as well, because that's one of those ones that you talked about where it's worth it for the exposure. You don't get paid. You are doing that one on your own expenses because it's a free conference for recruiters to go to. So if you're not aware of this, 2-day conference, one in end of February, I think, one early October, NEC, and next year it's at the Excel, where you get free training, free coaching, listening to amazing speakers talking about our industry. So do go along because you will learn a lot. And the fact that it is free means the speakers do give their time for free, apart from probably the keynotes. I think maybe they get paid free, but saying that, they're usually from the industry bodies, so possibly not as well. Katie, you've done international speaking as well. What's your experience?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, the question was, is it as glamorous as it sounds? Yes, it is. It's amazing. It's fantastic. But yeah, it's one of those things that, let's say, my experience mainly has been virtual as well. I mean, I'm sort of getting some physical, in-person ones as well, and I love doing the in-person ones because you can't beat standing in front of an audience and really working that audience. And I like to use a lot of humour with what I do, and it works so well when you're in front of that audience. Whereas virtually, you can't hear people laughing and everything, so it's much harder. But it's amazing, and I'm totally addicted to it. I'm such a show off. I just love it.
Again, it fits with the personality, doesn't it? And some people would think it's the worst job in the world. No way would I want to stand up in front of those people. But the nervous energy is good. Like Lauren said, you are nervous beforehand, the details, but that feeling as you come off, you do feel a bit like a rock star, don't you? And so I can appreciate how they feel, whether it's Glastonbury or Brixton Academy or wherever it is, but that getting it's the energy from the audience.
It is.
That's the difference, isn't it?
And being nervous beforehand is good because it shows that you care. If you didn't get nervous, then you wouldn't really be caring about it. But yeah, no, it's fine.
No, definitely. Fantastic. Okay, well, 42 minutes. Look at that. We did it with 3 minutes to spare on those. If you all want to unmute, I want to say thank you for joining us, our coaches. I hope you enjoyed yourself on our newbies. Lauren, I need to get you booked in for Menopause Week before you get booked up all over the place. There's lots of references and links. This will all go into the course, and you've got the other 43 sessions in there as well. So do feel free to come and explore all the questions that the coaches have been asked. We try to change them up all the time. So you've potentially, what's 4 times? You've got over 200 in there for you to have a look at. We will be able to help you in some way, shape or form. That's what we're here for in the Recruiting Gym. We're a community. We're here to support. We want to share the knowledge around. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Tony. It's been wonderful having you. Thank you for your input, and we will be having you back again.
Oh, thanks, Angela. It's been great fun.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Oh, bank holiday as well here. Yep.